This is Strange Truths and Tall Tales, the Product of Newfoundland podcast. It's a place for people who are into Newfoundland history and folklore with an emphasis on the weird. I'm Robert. I write at productofnewfoundland.ca. In this episode, I'm taking a look at Bell Island. We're going to start off with the story of The Kid and the Squid, a harrowing tale of a 12-year-old who defeated a giant squid just off the coast of the island. From there, we'll chat with the paranormal investigators of T&E's new series History's Most Haunted about an episode they filmed in Bell Island. We'll drift a little further north for the segment Monstrous Things to recount a tale of a sea monster seen off Fortune Harbor. Let's get to it. You're traveling through the fog, and just ahead is an island of mermaids, miracles, and monsters. Your next stop, Newfoundland. And these are its strange truths and tall tales. I think of fall as giant squid season in Newfoundland. History would seem to suggest that if you're going to see a giant squid here, it might be in the autumn. Most of the island's noteworthy giant squid encounters seem to have happened in October and November. The following story did. The Kid and the Squid recounts how one October day, nearly 150 years ago, the quick actions of a 12-year-old boy saved the lives of two grown men when their boat was under attack by a giant squid off the shores of Bell Island. Here it is. Here's the story. The Kid and the Squid. It was a gray October day in 1873, and 12-year-old Tom Pickett had just taken helm of the small fishing boat and was steering it away from Portugal Cove. Ahead of him loomed the steep cliffs of Bell Island. In the boat were his father, Theophilus, and fishing partner, Daniel Squires. Tom had been fishing with the men a while now, long enough that he knew his duties, but not so long that his excitement had faded. Even heading out on the water to check herring nets, as they were today, still felt like an adventure. As he drew closer to Bell Island, Tom spotted something he'd never seen before, a strange object in the water. It seemed to be floating just at the surface. What could it be, Tom wondered? Maybe an overturned boat? A big fish? He didn't know. He pointed toward the object, and before long all three occupants were intrigued. They'd never seen anything quite like it. It was probably debris, they agreed. In any case, it was worth a closer inspection. They altered course and rowed toward the object. The closer they got, the more mysterious it became. It was not at all clear what they were looking at. It certainly wasn't wooden debris. Maybe it was a piece of sail, they thought, but if so, it was like no sail they'd seen before. Perhaps if they hooked a piece of it, they could get a closer look. Reaching out with the grapple, they snagged a piece of it. Suddenly, the debris sprang to life, rearing itself above the waves. What a moment ago they thought might be a bit of cloth was now fixing a giant green eye on the boat. Faster than seemed possible, the creature struck. It slammed a sharp beak into the gunwale, tearing at the wood. A long gray tentacle rocketed from the water and fixed itself to the boat. Then another. The creature had them. It was wrapped all around the vessel, and it was pulling them under. Water spilled over the sides. The men were sure they were about to lose their boat and find themselves floating helpless in the waters of Conception Bay and at the mercy of this devilfish. Then, at his feet, Tom noticed a small axe. Before he could formulate a plan, it was in his hands. Crack! With a swift chop, he severed the tentacle closest to him. As fast as he could, he landed 2 more blows and cut the other arm from the beast. As quickly as the attack had started, the boat was free. The enormous animal, an impossibly giant squid it seemed, discharged a cloud of musky-smelling ink and disappeared, wounded, into the depths of Conception Bay. The men, stunned by their encounter, made their way back to Portugal Cove to share the incredible tale, a tale that no one could dare challenge because they had proof. 2 severed squid arms. Ashore, they shared their story and they showed the squid pieces. After that, Tom wasn't sure what to do with them. I mean, what do you do with a piece of monster that tried to swamp your boat? Ultimately, Tom threw one piece on the ground outside his front door, where it was eaten by local dogs. The other piece he intended to keep and maybe preserve to use as some kind of tether for his boat. That wasn't to be, though. At least not when Tom learned that the pieces might be valuable to someone. A local minister persuaded Tom to take his piece of the giant squid to Reverend Moses Harvey in St. John's, who was a noted naturalist. The next day, Tom went into town and found Harvey. He He recounted his tale and told Harvey how he had done for the big squid. Harvey paid him a reward, and Tom went on his way, never to forget the day he defeated the devilfish. From there, Harvey went down in history as the man who helped take the giant squid from tall tale to verifiable scientific fact. To this day, a species of giant squid bears the name Architeuthis harveyi, partially owing to Tom, a 12-year-old kid from Portugal Cove who defeated a giant squid. Really, that story blows my mind. It would be an amazing story if anyone had been so brave, but the fact that Pickett was like 12? What's that? I don't know, a grade 7 student, I guess? That's something. I'm way older, and I don't know that there's any point in my life where I would have been able to do what he did. It's crazy. Heroism knows no age, I guess. There's a brand new show starting on T&E this week. It's called History's Most Haunted. It follows paranormal experts Corine Carey, Leanne Sallenback, and Kelly Ireland as they travel across North America meeting those who have come face to face with the unknown. The trio are on a mission to unlock a deeper understanding of the hauntings that take place in the world-famous locations they visit. Featuring stylized cinematic dramatizations of eyewitness accounts coupled with rich context provided by experts, historians, and locals, Corine, Leanne, and Kelly will bridge the gap between the past and present in a fresh new way. The documentary series shows how paranormal investigations can enrich people's understanding of history by giving voices to the spirits of those who lived it. An episode of the series was shot right here in Newfoundland, in Bell Island. I had a chance to see that episode. It tells some great stories, some of them I'd never heard before. I had a chance to sit down with the investigators and ask them about it, and their time here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Okay, Leanne, what is History's Most Haunted?
Okay. So History's Most Haunted is a new show airing September 8th on T&E, and it's the three of us, so a team of sisters and best friends, traveling to the most haunted historical locations across North America. And we're using our abilities as well as our gear to connect with the past and the present, and we're kind of telling some new truths and untold history.
So, Kelly, besides Bell Island, where are some of the places you guys go?
We started in San Antonio, Texas, and moved across the United States a bit, South Carolina, Salem, Massachusetts, Montreal. What am I missing, you guys?
New Orleans.
New Orleans, yes. Yeah, so all over.
So, yeah, that's a pretty impressive travel list, and Bell Island, Newfoundland made the cut. What drew you to Bell Island?
There is something supernatural about that island. Like every single person we talked to or ran into there had a story and experience, which is really rare to like have that in such a small location too. But so many witness stories drew us there, you know, like these powerful stories that you just can't deny. Like we just had to go investigate.
So, Corine, what are some of the stories you found when you went to Bell Island?
Well, I think there's, without giving too much away, I think there's a.
I know. I want to keep the whole. I don't want there should be no spoilers here.
Right.
I can tell you where we went.
Yeah. So I know like there's even legends that have been, documented with Canada Post. There's stamps made about some of the legends on Bell Island. So like, of course, we had to go check out Dobbin's Garden and things like that. And, there was people telling us about their experiences in some mines and some homes. And so, yeah. And then, the whole story of, World War II and what happened around I didn't even know that. So I don't think many people outside of Newfoundland may know that, the Nazis were there. So we'll see what happens, and you'll have to watch to find out the details.
Yeah. There's a lot of hidden history around this place, even as recently as the Second World War, for sure, that I don't think the world knows at large. So jumping into what you were actually doing on Bell Island, paranormal investigation, how do you do a paranormal investigation?
Well, it was cold.
Yeah, it was so cold.
I had seen the Bell Island episode. I wanted to say that right away. First of all, I'm super impressed that you were here in the winter. I mean, nobody comes here in the winter.
Yeah, it was a little chilly.
What time of year was it you were actually here?
February.
Oh, okay. In the depths of winter.
Yeah, we were at Dobbin's Garden at like midnight in February, and the winds were just blowing. Like Corine had to like talk in that episode.
That is wild. So yeah, paranormal investigation. So how do you actually do one?
Yes. Okay. So we show up to a location with our gear, but we kind of set it down and set it up maybe to the side and go through ourselves typically to just see what we feel drawn to, sort of led to what gear we think we might lean into a bit more. Each of us experiences, as you do, different locations differently. So it's Leanne might be drawn to a certain spot. I might be drawn to a certain spot. Corine might be drawn to a certain spot. So that's always interesting right off the bat to get that. And then we might feel like we want to sit and connect a little bit without the gear first, or we might go and gather up some gear and get started. It sort of depends. We just kind of follow what we're sort of feeling as we go to each spot.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that is kind of important is that, like Kelly said, everybody has their own experience, and everybody experiences something differently, but your body is your first tool of an investigator, right? And everybody can feel the vibe of a space or the energy of a space. You sense something might not be right or something's a little off. And that's where we like to start. And then the tools come in to help us validate what we're picking up.
Okay. I was curious in watching your show, what exactly the tools you use are. What are they?
Yeah. There's a lot of paranormal research tools out there. They've come a long way in the last like 15, 20 years. So everybody probably knows what a voice recorder is, try to capture electric voice phenomenon. We have energy detectors to see if the electromagnetic energy of a room shifts. So obviously if you have, your routers in the room and you're sitting beside it, you might feel something because the energy coming off of that is strong. So like we try to debunk things like if there's a router or electrical wires or things like that. We have something called the ovilus, which has all the words programmed in. And the theory is that a spirit using energy can manipulate the words and project words onto the screen to communicate. We have SLS cameras that uses really cool Xbox Connect kind of technology that can map in a spirit form on the screen when we're investigating. So there's all kinds of these tools out there that we try out, and we try to validate what we're experiencing and see if the gear actually correlates as well. And when it does, it's pretty compelling.
That is cool. One of the well, there are many. I think that your show is really interesting in several ways. For sure, I think the haunting aspect of it is going to pull a lot of people in. They're really going to be interested in the ghost side of things. I love how you tie it into the history, but I think one of the things that surprised me the most about it was sort of the humanity of it, the contemporary stories of the people who are living in the place right now. Mm-hmm. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what your investigations mean to the people that you work with.
From location to location, it seemed to each time the most important thing, I think, I don't know if you guys agree, but was the validation. Just having someone come in and say, yeah, I experienced that too, or we felt something different, but we believe you. That seemed to be huge for a lot of people. And then the next step was, if we were able to connect with the individual, this entity or whoever it was, and to understand why they may be there, that gave people like instant peace. Like, okay, then I feel better now. It was like, and it's so nice to see people's bodies just change as soon as you can give them a message or an explanation as to why something's going on. It's really special to me.
For sure. And it can be a really emotional experience for them too, right? Like they might have been dealing with something their whole like life or something recent, and it just rocked them to their core. But us going in and saying, yeah, we had that experience too. Like it's kind of the most validating thing for us as well, like giving these people peace in addition to the spirit.
I think that really translates to the viewer as well. You see that in the reaction of the people that you're talking to on camera, that I feel like maybe they feel they've been seen in a way that they haven't before. And maybe that you do bring them some sense of peace or some sense of understanding of what's going on in their lives. Switching gears here, does it get scary?
Yes.
Short answer, yes. Actually, really scary on Bell Island.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, when you're walking into the unknown, obviously there's a certain level of, fear when you go into a place. But if you go in with the right reasons, and, we always go in and we always ask ourselves, like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we going in? What's the purpose? We ground ourselves. We go in with the best intentions. We're not there to provoke and to, summon things. We're there to help people and the spirits. And so it can be scary. But once you figure out, like, once you start putting the clues together and you start putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, and you're like, okay, well, these ghosts were people at one point too, and they're trying to give you a message or tell somebody something. The fear kind of goes away a little bit more, except for Bell Island. That was a little intense. Spoiler alert. Yeah. That was
for me, I would say I'm never scared in locations at any time, because if you have fear, that's when something can attach to you. So I think that maybe it's like a feeling of uneasiness beforehand that occurs when you hear somebody's story, and that might sort of put you off a little bit, and you have to recenter yourself and ground yourself to make sure that you're fully embodied when you go into these locations and seeing clearly what is going on around you. I mean, I feel like a lot of it is just witnessing and experiencing the space and knowing what is there and what is you, and maintaining that. And so when it does become a hint of fear, and we tell our crews, as soon as you feel fear, tell us and we'll get out.
Okay. So how do you control that fear? I'm not sure I'd be good at it.
For me, okay, you guys go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, just being fully in myself and knowing that I am in myself, that there's just no fear.
I get scared. I'll admit it. I do the same thing. I ground myself and I do that. But there's times where, for me, the energy of a space is so, I guess it's not fear, it's more overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that overwhelming energy freaks me out because I don't know what it is yet. And so it's that overwhelming, like, what is going on? Like, should I keep going? Like in Bell Island, you'll see in the episode, there was a spot where I didn't think I could go any further because I was legit feeling this energy of, you are not welcome here. Get out, get out. You are not allowed in here. You're not welcome here. And I was like, okay, well, I'll leave. But, then you have to power through and figure out, why am I not welcome here? What's going on? So, sometimes you just have to be like, okay, it's fine. It's not overwhelming. And you just kind of, you're an investigator. You have to kind of go with it sometimes, right? So, yeah.
In one segment of your episode, you went into the mine, and you went quite a ways into the mine. What was that like? Paranormal aside, what was it like being that far in a mine?
Yeah.
I've never been in a mine like that before. It was kind of eye-opening to just really realize the scope of it, the number of tunnels. And I mean, we were in a certain portion of the massive mine. Like, that's a huge mine that goes under the ocean. Like, I don't think people can really, unless you've been there, grasp how big it is. So that alone was like, wow. And just thinking about the workers, the people, the men that were in there working and lost their lives in there, like, so much gratitude to them for working and doing that. But it was a lot. Experiencing Corine, watching Corine, because she's so sensitive, she could feel things way more powerfully than we could. And it was like Leanne and I were looking at each other like, are we going to be able to continue? And is she okay? But I know, talking about feeling scared, she was overwhelmed. I wouldn't say Corine was scared, because she, like, you've seen it. She's a force, man.
You three definitely put yourselves in places that, I would think twice about going, for sure. But then I'm not that brave.
Yeah. It's also literally our job.
Yes, it is. And you do it so that I don't have to. And I appreciate that. I wanted to ask you a sort of, maybe this is outside the scope of paranormal investigation. I don't know. Beyond the Do you encounter things that beyond ghosts is in your encounter? Is it exclusively ghost? I mean, Newfoundland has a lot, and Bell Island in particular has a lot of history of what we call fairies here, which are not Tinkerbell, but rather malevolent kind of creatures in Newfoundland lore. And I don't think anybody would consider them ghosts, but is that something you've ever encountered in your travels, that kind of being that's not a ghost, but something other?
Yeah, I think we're definitely open to like looking for all of those things. We've talked to people on the island about the fairies, so we definitely had those conversations. We didn't have enough time to get into it, but yeah, we're totally open to anything, like any supernatural, paranormal witness story. We will look for it.
Bell Island was a fantastic place to start in Newfoundland for sure, because I think they even call themselves perhaps the most haunted island in North America. So it's a great place to start. It's there's a lot of other haunted places to visit on the island as well. Any hopes or desires to visit any of them?
Oh, I'd love to go back. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily go back in February. But
there's a reason we don't put that on the tourism brochures.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, and just like you're driving around, there's so many places, and you know, it was cold in winter, and you knew there's places that were closed and people weren't around. But it would be great to come back and actually see some of those locations that people had told us about that we just didn't have a chance, just due to time, to go into.
For sure. Just sort of on a closing note here, what is it that you hope viewers take away from History's Most Haunted?
I think I would, you know, the show is so different in so many ways, but I think that my kind of favorite part about it is that it's not just us being sisters and best friends and an all-female lead, but we're telling history through a paranormal lens. And, you know, it is about that history, and it is about trying to figure out, you know, why are these spirits still in these places, and what is there a message or some kind of hidden truth that they want to be unraveled for the public to know or someone to know. So I think that telling it through a paranormal lens is it's just a cool way to look at history, and I hope people enjoy it and check it out on TNE on Friday, September 8th at 7 p.m. Pacific.
10
Eastern.
For me, it's like I hope we can gain new audiences of people who haven't delved into paranormal yet, because the history angle is so different. And not that we're trying to convince them of paranormal, but just that it's okay to ask the questions and like follow our journey and just look at it a bit differently. Like just see what I'm so curious about what like larger audiences will think.
I think there's a lot here in this show for everybody. Like I said before, I mean, I think you've got the paranormal angle, which is going to be intriguing for a lot of people. But beyond that, you tell history in a way that brings it alive through a new lens. And it is it's something that's going to resonate with a lot of people. Certainly resonated with me. And I'd like to thank you really for helping to highlight the stories of this place and keep them alive.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Check out History's Most Haunted on TNE. It premieres this Friday, September the 8th at 11:30 Newfoundland time. Newfoundland's got thousands of kilometers of fog-shrouded coastline, but it's not exactly an unexplored frontier. Newfoundlanders have always fostered a close relationship with the environment. They spent their days on the ocean or venturing into the forest. They got to know the place and its creatures pretty well. But for all their familiarity, they sometimes saw things they couldn't explain. Monstrous things. Oftentimes they only told their closest friends, but occasionally their sightings were too big to keep a secret, and they made headlines. I'm glad they did. I think the stories are fun to read and are great to ponder. I treat them a bit like a puzzle. I like to use the clues and try to piece together what known creature they likely saw. Sometimes I fail miserably at that, and I find myself doubting whether I ever want to go out on the ocean again. Some of the things they reported seeing were pretty scary. For this season of Strange Truths and Tall Tales, I thought it might be fun to share one of these reports every episode. This week, I'm going to start in Fortune Harbor, Notre Dame Bay, where an enormous creature was seen in the late 1800s. According to a story carried in the Daily Colonist on September 15, 1888, a giant animal was spotted by several fishermen near Fortune Harbor on August 27th of that year. The fishermen described it as having a head of enormous size and two large fins on the back about 40 feet apart. The animal, they estimated, was 120 feet in length. Despite the creature's size, it was moving at an incredible pace, as fast as a bird on the wing, said one of them. The animal was seen again the next day, August 28th, this time near a small fishing boat. The fishermen, not knowing what the creature's intent was, immediately began moving toward shore. The animal made no attempt to attack the boat, but kept pace for about 50 yards, giving the fishermen plenty of time to observe it. It was dark brown, he said, with a lighter, brassy underside. It was reminiscent of a giant sea cat or eel, but with a head like a bull terrier. The animal was described as being covered in slimy fur or bristles. It had a fin that reached from the back of its head to the middle of the back, where it joined to a large hump reminiscent of those seen on whales, but larger. On this occasion, the animal's size was judged to be somewhat smaller, though still an impressive 85 feet. What the fishermen saw officially remains a mystery. Do you have any guesses about what they saw? Was it a verifiable sea monster, or is it some animal we know pretty well? Drop your guesses in the comments. And that just about does it for this episode. Not too bad, I suppose. 150-year-old squid battles, paranormal investigations in and under Bell Island, and a giant hairy otter creature thing in Fortune Harbor. Tune in next time for more strange truths and tall tales. Until then, check out my blog, productofnewfoundland.ca, and visit me on Instagram and other social media at Product of Newfoundland, Product of NFLD, all one word, lowercase. Have a great day, and keep your eyes peeled for squid, I suppose. Talk to you soon.